Thank you very much. I would like to thank Mr. Tsutsubi for the invitation of UNICEDR here in this expert meeting, and the UNU and World Bank. And Ms. Akiko advanced a lot of my presentation on UNICEDR and what is going on with the post-2015 framework for disaster risk reduction. For those who don't know me very well, I am working in UNICEDR in Geneva headquarters. I'm now transferred to Japan. My presentation will be on the post-2015 framework for disaster risk reduction, disability-inclusive disaster risk reduction. The original title was Integrating Mental Health in post-2015 framework for disaster risk reduction. But after looking into all the negotiations and comments, I haven't found yet mental health as such spelling out in the framework. So I prefer to go through the disability-inclusive disaster risk reduction with the reality it is. So I will bring you a little bit about an overview from the Yokohama strategy and its action plan to the Hyogo framework for action, what has been the progress of disability-inclusive disaster risk reduction, and what are the current discussions in Geneva. The United Nations Office, for those who are not well aware, UNICEDR is the United Nations Office for Disaster Risk Reduction. We are the UN focal point for coordinate all the activities relating to this particular area. So we can see in this slide the impacts of disasters from 2000 to 2012, and we can see how many is the economic impact on trillion of dollars, 1.7 billion of people affected by disasters, and also how many people, 1.2 million people killed. But it doesn't say to us who was these people. If it's these people, these persons with disabilities, is who are all of these? This information doesn't give us enough. So we know, and we are very well aware about the increase of the impacts of disasters on the exposure. And we know the increase in the magnitude of these impacts, and they are very much in high urbanized areas, and in large numbers of people, and vulnerable people are affected. So we need to look at really, really close about persons with disabilities. And if you know, the disaster risk reduction framework is in the context of sustainable development. Just to give you just a technical overview, it's very important, this particular area we can see in area number 4, in application of risk and reduction of measures. Underlying risk factors is the area number 4. For the disaster risk reduction framework includes not only the monitor and assessment of the risk, it includes also the public awareness, it includes the political commitment, it includes early warning and underlying risk. So if we see the HFA as adopted in COVE in 2005, the issue of people with disability is under the priority for reduce the underlying risk factors. And there has been a specific outline in calling on the strengthen the implementation of social safety net mechanisms to assist the poor, the elderly, and disabled, and other populations affected. If we look back to the Yokohama Action Plan, we can read in the Yokohama Action Plan about vulnerability, persons with vulnerability, but they never spell out persons with disabilities. Is trying to, if we can see in the Yokohama, it calls on specifically about people and vulnerability. But we will go to the Hyogo framework for action, and we look well into the priority number 4 and into the indicators. We can see spell out the elderly and the disabled. But it's not enough. It's not enough because when UNICEDR has a monitor tool on the implementation of the HFA, and this is voluntary by countries. And we have seen a monitoring this progress over the years, and the progress with less progress is underlying risk. where we have this area of people with disability. So what has been doing since then? Because after we have made analysis on this implementation, we can see, and we have been advocating of the drivers of progress in terms of human security and social equity. So UNICEF in 2013, we launched every year we have a thematic theme for the International Day. In 2013, we made the International Day to raise awareness on this particular area. Very interesting in this day is that we launched a survey, about a global-wide survey in our website, which was very, very well resulted. And we receive, if you go to the International Day 2013, which was specifically about people with disabilities, you will see the answers of mothers who are answering the survey because their children is totally cannot able to respond, cannot mentally disabled, or some other people. And we see the voices of those who have disability. So it brings a lot of attention from UNICEF and the international community. And then if you look after, one of the questions was about what are their thinking about the priorities for the next framework. And if you read about the words of these answers, they call for information, they call for access, they call for communication, they call for planning. And we realize also through this survey that there is no plan for disaster management, including people with disability. So, of course, many cities make a lot of activities, and I like this one because no one gets left behind. Living with disability and disasters. It has been really, really a demand driven from the community. So, then for the post-2015 framework, the General Assembly requests UNICEF through the resolution 68/2011 to develop a framework through consultations, and we have been doing them. One of the recommendations, a very strong one, is the one I capture, is that the HFA2 must recognize and strengthen the significant role of persons with disabilities in all levels of disaster management, including decision-making, coordination, implementation, with an emphasis on encouraging the National Disaster Management Office to work closely with national organizations to support disabled persons. This one was particular from Asian Pacific and relies on the Pacific Forum, Pacific Disability Forum. So I'm going more in depth on the zero draft on the post-2015 framework for the arts. So we have some consultations, a lot of movement of disabled groups and forums, and the main recommendation is the one I just tell you. And now the zero draft, we have captured in several parts of the zero draft. For example, in the guiding principles, it says that it should have a gender, age, disability, and cultural perspective integrated in disaster management, risk management. And also, in point number 8, requests in informed decision making based on open and gender-specific sex, age, and disability disaggregated data. We are advancing in the text. And very interesting is about the roles of stakeholders, because although governments are the ones who are taking the negotiations, the consultations has opened a lot of discussion from the disability groups. And the next framework has a lot of importance on the role of stakeholders, and we have a specific paragraph on the persons with disability are critical in the assessment of risk and design and implementation of plans tailored to specific requirements in line with the principles of universal design. So they are part of the role of the stakeholders. And very interesting, in the last week negotiation, the government of Italy include a specific line into taking into consideration gender, age, and disabilities. Do not forget. Moreover, we have 4 priorities in the new text, and number 1 is about understanding risk. And in this one, we have several countries advocating to make policies and practices for disaster risk management based on an understanding of risk in all dimensions of vulnerability. That was the original text from the consultations, 0 draft. But they are asking and including, taking into consideration gender, age, and disability. And in the other paragraph, also systematically survey, record, and publicly account for all disaster losses and economic, social, and health impact. And again, Canada requests to please ask desegregated by sex, age, and disability. So this is to show you that we are getting some progress, but for me, it's not enough. We need to really look into the indicators. There is a lot of discussion in November on the indicators. We need to secure it. We really want, because this next framework will be, we don't know yet, from 10 years, 15 years. So this framework will guide government's actions, government's budgets. So we need to ensure and secure from this group, and this is one of our recommendations, to work closely with the workshops we are doing and indicators, and secure a specific concrete indicator for this specific area. The resolution now adopted, I will not come back again, but I received a draft text on 18 November through my colleagues from New York, and I was very happy to look also that how this resolution integrates disability inclusive disaster risk reduction. Next is the World Conference too. So Sendai meeting, a very good opportunity to advocate this specific area. A lot of events that UNDESA, UNICEF is already working hard for this awareness. But also UNESCO. So we will have a lot of awareness in this World Conference. But something I want to highlight here is that we are also looking about how people with disability can participate and contribute to the discussions, because one of the things is how they can contribute to the discussions from their perspective. So we will have substantive accessibility, disaster inclusive sessions. We have information accessibility. Already in the negotiations in Geneva, we were able to provide immediate typing for those who have disability of listening and can read, and physical accessibility. So we are putting in place not only sessions and thematic substance, but also the fact that we want for them to be part of this World Conference too. Disaster risk reduction is about people, so this is my last message. Thank you.